Well, good morning. Unless you're watching this in the evening, good evening. And welcome back to another week on my allotment. I've been absent from the channel for 2 weeks. And we've had, in those 2 weeks, and I did say that before on the last video, we've had a good time. Been a bit of a family orientated couple of weeks. The first weekend I couldn't post a video was because Cheryl and I went to the Malvern Autumn Show. Fantastic to be getting back to shows. Really enjoyed it. I'm not a fan of the spring show. I think they charge too much money just for you to go in and be sold stuff. And of course there's a lot of that with the autumn show, but with the harvest tent and lots of live acts and entertainment for children, I just thought there was a real carnival atmosphere. Not too many masks. People were generally glad to be back and enjoying themselves and doing things normally. So yeah, we had a good weekend then, and I'm going to show you a few clips of it. And interestingly, we had a bit of a drama with a hot air balloon going over the caravan. That was quite interesting, and that'll be stuck on the end. But of course I'm back on the plot now. The following week, the week just gone, we had a week on Dartmoor, and when I say we, it was my wife and I, my mum and dad, and then my daughter and her fiance came down for a few days in the middle. And one of my customers very generously offered me her cottage that she's got on Dartmoor at a place called Bovey Castle, which is splendid, spectacular. It used to be a private home and is now a hotel, and on the grounds built into the old stable complex are some cottages, and she didn't want to go down there, so she offered it to me, which was very generous. Thank you, Marilyn. And not that she watches these. But we had a fantastic week. I love Dartmoor. By coincidence, we were due to go there in the caravan anyway, but with an opportunity like that, it couldn't be missed. And we took my parents down, and we had the most wonderful time. We alternated it with a little bit of walking, so Cheryl and I still got to do our walking on the moor. Made better because we had company with Carl and Charlotte, who made us feel very old. And mum and dad on the other alternate days we went to the garden house, which is a lovely garden near Tavistock. We had a cream tea. We went out for an evening meal. It was just wonderful, absolutely fantastic. And I'll show you a few clips of that in my next video. So 2 weeks away, back on the plot, and obviously having had 2 weeks not here, there are an awful lot of weeds. Things have got a little bit ragged, but everything's relative. I'm not going to worry about it. We're at the end of the season. The weeds are dying down as well as the plants, and I've got all winter to sort it out. So I'm not going to get uptight about it, although I was here in the dark, and as the light comes up, I'm seeing more and more. Anyway, yeah, I'm not going to worry. We'll have a quick scoot around the plot. If nothing else, to see the rather impressive pumpkins. But at the show, in the tent, the pavilion with all the unreasonably large vegetables and the spectacular flowers, we're real fans of dahlias, and they were just out of this. I had to touch one just to check it wasn't plastic. DT Brown's had a stand, and what they were doing essentially was selling off all their old stock of seeds. But you know, these seeds have quite a long date, and they were mobbed. We went on the Sunday, so I've almost got the whole range of my seeds, and I checked the sell by or the plant by dates, sow by dates, as I pick them. So thank you to DT Brown's. They were selling all their seed packets for £1, which is a really good deal. Albeit, you know, they're not next year's. Normally I would buy my seeds for next year, next spring, but we'll see how we get on with this, and if that's the, you know, if that works, I shall do that next autumn if they're still doing it. So that was a real bargain. And completely separate to the show, I've ordered my garlic, my onion sets. There's the garlic, there's one of the garlic, there's two cloves, 2 bulbs in there. I hope to get some of those in today. It depends if the beds they're going in are vacant, and I haven't checked my plan at the moment, but we'll have a look at that. So, and I'm not going to, normally I would plant them in seed trays, in individual cells, let them get a root and a little bit of green showing, and then put them in the ground so that the birds don't peck at them. But I think this year, I'm learning to be a little more relaxed about things. Well, trying. So I'm just going to put them in the ground if the ground is available. If it's not, then I'll take them home and put them in seed trays. So that's the score at the moment. What am I doing today? Well, the runner beans, I've been leaving the tripods up with a view to keeping and saving my own seeds. So that's one job. I'm not going to do all the tripods today because it's just too much work, and the compost bin is really working well. It's been up, I've put the compost thermometer in, and it's up to 65 degrees centigrade. Well, that will kill all the perennial weeds if they're in there, and they are. So that, I'm really happy with the way that's going, so I'm going to continue with that. I don't use the mower now. I just use the shears. So I take the stuff out the bay, put it in a trug or a big large bucket, and then chop at it with the shears. And that seems to work just as well as the lawnmower, really, without making a mess of the mower. So I'll show a few clips. If you didn't recognise, it's not the Union flag I put up this morning, it's a remembrance flag. I bought it at the same time as I bought the Union flag earlier in the year, and we're close to Remembrance Day, or close enough, so I thought I'd fly that and do my little bit to remember the fallen. So, and a little bit more about that in one of my interesting or not so interesting stories. Yeah, so welcome along to the plot. I think before we do anything else, we'll go and have a look at my few clips of the show.
Sprinting style of Luke Towler on our red pole. The B-layers are struggling to keep that rope tight, having to run across the arena. And a massive leap for the bottom.
Very important principle. For the mark. And that in itself is a very big portion of supply as well. Use the corner and dig it up to as much soil as possible. Push that so eventually you need it to
they're like inside.
roots, and you can then start through the following year much easier. You can follow a lot of things.
You thought your onions were big.
Sizes and everything, dear.
Not made in the sun, but taken us, haven't they?
Yeah. He's actually coming down.
Well, he's behind the trees, he's gone back up. He's going to come down then. I swear he's going in the car park field. He ain't going to make it anywhere else.
Which car park field are you on about?
Just down here, outside the campsite, where there's the car park for this campsite. I reckon he's going there. He ain't going to make it anywhere else the way he's going.
No.
He's going for those... otherwise he's going to have to go up higher because of those trees.
That's either an absolute disaster or a brilliant piece of flying. He's just starting to go up now. Is he going to clear them trees?
I don't know. There's no screaming or anything, and the woman seems quite calm.
It's two blokes.
Oh, I thought the other one was a woman.
Oh, they're waving. That's a good sign.
He's going up again. So he's going up over the trees. He clearly knows what he's doing.
Another A1 lunch spot in the churchyard. And a beautiful little English village. Making our way back to the campsite. And there's the Malvern Hills. I'm guessing this tractor hasn't been used in a while. Got a Magnum, perfect. Well, inspired by the Malvern show, I thought I'd do my little trug display from the stuff I got today at the allotment. And there it is. Fantastic.
Wow. Can't see the strawberries.
I'm most proud of the cauliflowers, actually.
Perfect.
And what a whopper of a carrot. Yeah, in relation to the remembrance flag, obviously, you know, having had a 30-year career in the military from 16 years old, actually just up to 46, you know, I'm inextricably linked to the forces, and I tend to give quite generously at that time of year. But I watched a thing by Jim Davidson. Jim Davidson's got his own YouTube channel, and I am a fan, and I've told stories about him in the Falklands in a previous video. And he talked about, he set up his own military charity because he sort of fell out of love with the Royal British Legion. I mean, I've always given to the Royal British Legion. I wear my poppy with pride. But he told a few tales about the Royal British Legion, how about they won't help ex-servicemen with a criminal record. And of course, you know, to be charitable, I would suggest, as Jim Davidson did, that it's those guys who've fallen on the wrong side of the tracks who need the most help, not to be abandoned by the Royal British Legion. And I think another thing he pointed out is that they currently have 70 million in the bank. 70 million. And there are ex-soldiers living homeless. Well, how can that be? You know, so he says he won't wear a poppy again. And so he created his own charity to help those guys that so desperately need help. And you know, I've not quite decided yet whether I feel that strongly. I'll make a decision nearer the time, but I do agree with him in principle. And that reminds me of a little tale that relates to that. And when I became so I did 22 years as a soldier in man service, from sapper or private up to RSM W1 level. I wasn't an RSM, but I was a W1 at that level. And when I'd finished and I thought I was getting out and I started doing my resettlement with a view to becoming a civilian, I was offered a commission to become an officer, which was very fortunate. And I accepted it, and I did a further 7 years, well, just over, as a commissioned officer. And when I became an officer, I got called into the admin office, and they said, you've got to sign your day's pay scheme. Now, I had to do that when I was a young recruit. Well, of course, as a young trainee soldier, you're marched in front of a senior NCO who's got a load of paperwork, and he says, sign there, and sign there. And you do exactly what you're told, and you march out. So you have no idea what you're signing. I mean, that's the way the military works. And so, but when I became an officer, I was then, you know, a mature, well, I was an adult. And I look at what I'm signing, and it was the day's pay scheme, which, unknown to me, and probably most soldiers, I'd signed as a young recruit. And as the name suggests, they take a day's pay off every serviceman and woman in the forces, all three services, and that day's pay goes to fund things like Headley Court and all the sort of different things that the military charities do. And I looked at that, I thought, I didn't know we're paying for all this help for service personnel. I said, no, I'm not. And as an officer, it's 2.5 days pay. It's not a day's pay. Well, as an officer, that's quite a bit of money. Now, I don't begrudge service personnel getting charitable help. Of course I don't. I give to service charities. But I did begrudge taking 2.5 days pay off me. I should decide where my money goes regarding charity. I felt really indignant about it. I said, no, I'm not signing that. Anyway, there's a thing in the Royal Engineers called the Backstabber's Guide, and it's a book basically with every serving officer. The Backstabber's Guide is an informal name for it. It's really useful. If you need help as a serving officer, you can look through this guide and it tells you where everybody's serving and how to get in touch with them. It's a brilliant book. But all the people, all the officers who don't sign up to the day's pay scheme, their names are printed in a different colour, so everybody knows. It's a bit of this, like the shaming that's going on with COVID and the, you know, absolutely disgusting shaming. That's what they do with the Backstabber's Guide. So anyway, at some point I got a phone call from the chap who runs the day's pay scheme, who was a full colonel, I think, at Brompton Barracks at Royal Engineers headquarters, and I got a 45-minute lecture on all the good that this money does and why I should be signing up to it. And at the end of the 45 minutes he says, now, Captain Jordan, have I convinced you to sign up? I said, sir, you've just lectured me for 45 minutes. At no point have you asked me why I don't pay into the scheme. And he was sort of taken aback, and he said, oh, okay, go on then, tell me. And I said, I believe with all my heart that any man or woman who serves this country and is disabled or injured or mentally scarred should never want for anything again, but the country should pay. Not me. Not a young sapper who's on really basic income giving a day of his pay so that we pay for them. That's wrong. It's immoral. And I will not pay. I'm getting uptight about it now, and I'm a civvy. So anyway, we agreed to disagree, and then I don't know, months later, I got called in by my commanding officer. I was at the dive school at the time, and he sat me down and he said, "Look, I've been asked to speak to you, and to warn you that the fact that you don't pay in will affect your career and may prevent you getting promotion." And he said, as an aside, I just want to say I completely understand where you're coming from with this stand. It's just you should know that whilst, you know, you're a principled individual, this is going to affect your career. And you know, I said, well, that's wrong. But I know the way the world works. I'm not naive. But sometimes in life, you have to draw a line. And I'm drawing a line, and I will not pay up to it. My money is mine to do with as I see fit. Now, you know, you may agree with me, you may not. Doesn't really matter now. I'm long gone from the army. But I think that's disgusting. I think if they want to create a scheme, that's noble, and that it should be voluntary. Now, they will argue it is voluntary because I didn't pay it, but I paid a price. It just so happened that before I would ever put forward on the promotion board, I'd resigned and left for other reasons. But yeah, that's an interesting thing, and it's just typical of this country. And of course, most people in the country, I think, would agree with me that the state should be paying for these people. War harms. It does terrible things to people. And if the country wants to send... I mean, I don't happen to agree with any of the recent conflicts where British personnel have died. It's one of the main reasons I left the forces. I never thought I'd invade foreign countries. Not me personally. But anyway, it's just a little tale. You may find it interesting. You may be surprised to find out that that's how we fund the help that our service personnel need. Right, well, on the plot, as daylight spreads across, it's all looking a little bit shabby, to be understood, but, you know, it's all relative, like I say. And the reason most of it's shabby is because the squashes the plants are collapsing, which is all part of their incredible design. And as the leaves collapse, they expose the fruit, which gives the sun, or what's left of it, the opportunity to ripen them. Anyway, this is one thing I want to point out. I've said before I've had no success growing celery, and this year's very different. It's in a raised bed. I have mentioned this before. I'm sorry to repeat myself. But underneath the celery, halfway down the soil, I put a load of old compost bags, and then I put the soil on top and I planted the celery into it. And the reason for that was these are bog plants, and I wanted to create a pool or a reservoir of water that didn't drain away. And it's been totally successful. We've had quite a bit of celery off those plants. I mean, one of them there looks like it's gone to seed. But at the same time, in the same plants, that container down there, they are the same plants, and look at that, absolutely no development. They have not moved since they went in there, and one of them's actually gone to seed. Yeah, not been on the plot for 2 weeks, so the courgettes are monsters, and you know, so be it. There's some ginormous weeds about. Again, not going to worry, it's got to be sorted. The strawberry beds are all messy and overrun with runners. I can, now the light is up, I can see strawberries on it, which is quite unique. The asparagus is still looking healthy. I don't know how much rain we've had this week, because down on Dartmoor, apart from the initial day we got there, we didn't have any rain. And you can see across the plot, the empty beds are mounting up. And again, now the light is here. I thought, when I was walking around in the dark, I thought, oh, they haven't got any weeds on, that's good news. Well, now the light is up, and they have. Here's one of my 2 pumpkin patches. And somehow, one of those Tromboncinis got mixed up when I planted. Label everything, label everything. God's sake, have I not learnt that? Anyway, I'm going to use those Tromboncinis as squashes. When they grow initially, when they're juvenile plants, they can be used as courgettes. But when they develop a hardened skin, which those have, and they are mature, they can be used as squashes. So we'll give them a go and see how we get on. But I've got some cracking pumpkins here. Oddly, this one, which is on the same plant, is only just showing signs of going orange, but so that one will have to be left. But yeah, all very good. And then another patch here with a couple of monsters. Yeah, all looking good. And my leek bed with those leeks that didn't bolt. And there's some other leeks just over there by the arch, and that was a second sowing and they didn't bolt. And then here I have a cauliflower developing and some very mature cabbages. We grow the cabbages only for coleslaw. Well, of course, now they're all developing. It's blimmin' October, and you know, the sort of coleslaw season has passed. And some people will say, oh, well, you can grow them through the winter, and then they'll mature earlier in the season. But we've got clubroot on the site, so we can only grow clubroot resistant varieties, and they're not winter cabbages, so never mind. And here's the mashed potato squash that all look to be developing beautifully. Again, I'll leave these plants until they really have died down. They don't colour up like the normal butternuts, so I'm not quite sure when they're mature. I guess the thing to do is look at the stalk, and when the stalk browns, I'll know they're mature. Anyway, what else have I got to show you? Here's my compost heap. Oh yeah, I can feel the heat coming out of that. Wipe that on my shorts. Then I've got my kale, and despite my initial doom and gloom about the cabbage white, they look splendid, and I shall observe today to see if the cabbage whites have disappeared, because if they have, that netting's coming off, then I can get at those weeds. And the Brussels sprouts, this plant in particular, is maturing. I could probably pick some of those and eat them, but the others are still a bit immature. Anyway, oh, and there's a few tomatoes left, and I'll pick those today, because you know they're not gonna get any better than that. So, and the carrots are brilliant at the moment. Just the last bit. Oh, started collecting my leaf mould, and then we've got. I'm going to have a Sunday dinner today, but Cheryl said she doesn't want parsnips. She thinks it's too early for parsnips, so they'll have to wait a little longer. And that's it really. All this ground again needs hoeing, and then another job there is all these blackberries, which were there when I got the plot, and they desperately need cutting back. So that is the plot as it stands. All a bit ragged, not how I'd like it, it's not up to standard, but it's very productive, which is the priority. And I will try. Oh, look at all those seagulls up there. Does the video show them? Yeah, and I'll make a start now, and for the rest of the day on tidying it one bed at a time. Well, there's actually nothing to see there, but that's 50, I think, or maybe more, I don't know. In fact, it's got to be more. Electric, it's called electric onion, and it was planted today, which I think is the 10th of October. Well, that's what I put on the label anyway. Good job, ticked off. Well, it's not going to win any awards for presentation. I think it's just about to go over, but I'll take that home, and Cheryl will be able to salvage some of it for tonight's dinner. We may even get a little bit of it in the freezer, who knows. Good news. Well, that's my contractual obligation of pumpkins. I'm going to go and borrow John's car and drag them all the way down the farm shop. Job done. They look fantastic. Don't know if you can make it out, but all of a sudden on my plot I've got hundreds of bees, and the majority of them were swarming around this arch. I just left the plot for a minute because there were so many of them. The numbers have dropped now, but I don't know what's going on with this arch, that they're buzzing all around it. There are bees all around me. They haven't stung me yet, but it's odd. They haven't been here before, and all of a sudden they've appeared. Well, it's not my most impressive haul, but that's a pretty impressive cauliflower and my first Brussels sprouts of the year. And the fact that I'm still picking strawberries is quite amazing. That's never happened before. So, very happy. Well, you can probably tell by my head, it's been sunny all day. Yeah, I think I might burn tonight. And the daft thing is me hat. When will I learn? Anyway, I've had a really productive day. It's good to be back on the plot. I have to admit, being on Dartmoor, I had no inclination to get back quick. But now I'm here, I've got work tomorrow, and life goes back to normal. But yeah, I've had a really productive day. Lots of removing vegetation that's past its best. I've started to create some more comfrey feed. I've got a full container that's been sitting there for 2 weeks with it drip feeding in. That's a really good system. I can't decant it into bottles because I've run out of bottles, and I've got about 10 bottles up on the shelf there, all ready for next year. That's going well. I've uncovered some of the brassicas. I've not seen a single cabbage white. Peculiarly, mid-afternoon, I've had a swarm of bees. We've got hives just up the hill on the footpath, and I've got one in here now. I don't know whether they've come from there and they've swarmed with a new queen. I don't really know much about bees, but I've had to avoid my central arch for the last couple of hours because there's been hundreds of bees swarming all over it. Anyway, it's diminishing now. I think they're on their way off somewhere else, hopefully. So yeah, really good day. Taken my pumpkins down to the shop, and I've probably got about another 10. I have to deliver 12 because I've got 2 plots, 6 per plot, and I've probably got about another 10 there. I'm taking 2 home for our next door neighbour. He's got 2 little children, so I'll give them a couple. And I'll probably just take the rest down the shop and get a bit more money. it's split 50-50. All the produce we have here that we give to the shop, they sell it and then they split 50-50 the profit. Yeah, so a good afternoon or a good day was had. So I will be around next weekend, so I shall post another video then. So until then, look after yourselves. Thanks to those who subscribed. I've had a couple more subscribers on board. Tends to happen that as I gain a couple, I lose a couple. I don't think I've said anything controversial today. Normally I open my big mouth and say something, usually about this COVID debacle. And I lose a couple of subscribers, and I'm not going to change. It is what it is. It's my channel. I don't want to upset anybody, or I certainly don't want to offend anybody, but offence isn't the greatest crime in the world, is it? So yes, thanks for subscribing. Please hit the thumbs up if I haven't upset you, and all being well, I shall see you next weekend. Look after yourselves. Bye for now.